The first race of the 2026 Formula One season is in the books. We have had a dominant winner, a statement from a young rookie, a quietly efficient Ferrari, and at least one big project already under serious pressure. This video is not a lap-by-lap recap. More than 24 hours after the checkered flag, we are going to look at the real winners and losers of the Australian Grand Prix. And we are starting with the most obvious one. If you want a single image that sums up this weekend, it is Toto Wolff smiling on the pit wall as George Russell and Kimi Antonelli cruise across the line for a 1-2 finish. After 4 bruising years with the bouncing ground effect cars, Mercedes has finally found its new 2014 moment. First, it used winter testing to hide its true hand. Then it used qualifying to show that the W17 was not only quick in the corners, but also a step ahead in energy deployment. And now, in race trim, it has converted that package into the perfect start to 2026. George Russell wins the Australian Grand Prix, controlling the pace from the front. Andre Kimi Antonelli, fresh from a big FP3 crash and a wild first Formula One weekend, finishes P2, his best result so far. This is not just about speed, it is about execution. Mercedes has the most complete power unit in terms of harvesting and deployment, a car with enough aero efficiency to make that energy usable, and a driver lineup that is already delivering. The revenge angle is very real. For years, Mercedes kept talking about false dawns and small steps forward that never turned into consistent results. Now, finally, this is not a false dawn. This is a sunrise. The warning is clear. Ferrari is close enough to keep Mercedes honest, but the world champions of old have just landed the first heavy punch of the new era. On paper, Ferrari only finished 3rd and 4th, but context matters. Leclerc takes P3, Lewis Hamilton is P4, and both drivers leave Melbourne with confirmation that 1. The Ferrari is legitimately the second best package at this stage, and 2. The gap to Mercedes is sizable but not insurmountable over a season. Leclerc had already admitted after qualifying that he was shocked by the Mercedes data. He literally had to reload the trace because he thought it was wrong. In the race, though, Ferrari stabilized things. They were not in a position to beat Russell on pure pace, but they were also never in real danger from McLaren or Red Bull over a full stint. Hamilton's P4 is especially interesting. This is the first time in years that he is not the one carrying Mercedes on his back. Instead, he is now the anchor at Ferrari, slotting in behind Russell, Antonelli and Leclerc in a car that still needs work on energy deployment and balance. He did not produce anything spectacular, but he did exactly what Ferrari needed. No big mistakes, strong race management, and a clear read on where the SF26 is weak against the W17. If Ferrari find the missing performance on the hybrid side, the Hamilton versus Mercedes storyline will write itself. For now, Ferrari leave Australia as winner, baseline performance and points, and loser, still lacking the magic mode that Mercedes clearly has. Behind Mercedes and Ferrari, the picture is more complicated. McLaren came into this new era on a high, having ended 2025 as Red Bull's main challenger and at times the fastest car. But the reset to 2026 has not been kind. McLaren's issues are twofold. As a Mercedes customer, it is clearly behind the works team in extracting the full potential from the new power unit. As Andrea Stella admitted, McLaren is also chasing pure downforce and grip compared to Mercedes. Losing Oscar Piastri before the start was brutal for the home crowd and robbed the team of half its strategic options. Lando Norris in P5 is solid, but not the kind of result you print on posters after your big winter. McLaren are not in crisis, but they are firmly filed under work to do. Red Bull's situation is different. On the one hand, the Red Bull Ford powertrains project deserves a lot of credit. This is a brand new power unit department built for one of the most complex sets of regulations we have seen. And yet, Max Verstappen and Isack Hadjar both showed top 3 qualifying pace, race trim performance good enough to fight McLaren, and no obvious disaster on the energy side. Hadjar's engine-related retirement is painful, but not unexpected for a brand new PU. Verstappen's run to P6 is below his usual standard on paper, but given his qualifying crash and starting position, it is not a catastrophe. Red Bull leave Melbourne as winner, proof that Red Bull Ford can fight near the sharp end from race 1. Loser, they are learning the hard way that Mercedes has set a brutally high reference. If Mercedes' weekend was a dream, Aston Martin Honda's was a recurring nightmare. Lawrence Stroll sold the project as a new super team, Aston Martin plus Works Honda, to take on Mercedes and Red Bull. Instead, the very first race together has exposed just how fragile the partnership is. The core problem is not strategy, it is hardware. Honda's new power unit and its integration into the AMR26 have created violent vibrations so severe that they are physically damaging the battery units. That is catastrophic on several levels. You lose mileage in practice and cannot learn the car, you burn through limited components before the development race even starts, and you destroy confidence between team and manufacturer. Both Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll ended up retiring after long, compromised pit stops. To make matters worse, the relationship side is already under strain. Adrian Newey, team boss in name and technical genius by trade, has been quick to point the finger at Honda. That might reflect the reality of who made what mistake, but publicly blaming the engine partner at round 1 is exactly the dynamic McLaren had with Honda a decade ago. It did not end well then, and it will not end well now if Aston Martin repeat the pattern. Honda will almost certainly quietly fix the problems, that is what it does. But right now, this is a huge loser of the weekend. Performance, nowhere near the front. Reliability, borderline unacceptable. Politics, already tense. A match made in heaven, this is not. If Aston Honda shows how hard this new formula is, then Audi and Red Bull Ford show what a good launch looks like. We have already mentioned Red Bull at the front. Audi deserves its own chapter. There were real doubts about whether Audi could hit the ground running. New power unit department, big corporate pressure, public lobbying against Mercedes' compression ratio trick that some saw as a sign of weakness. Nico Hülkenberg not even making the start was an early blow. But Gabriele Bortoleto scored hard-earned points in a car that is clearly not a disaster. Audi is not on Mercedes' level, nobody is, but this is a respectable first step into the 2026 midfield. On the power unit scoreboard, after one race, you can say Mercedes, clear benchmark, Red Bull Ford, impressive start, Audi, credible and in the game, Honda, big trouble ahead. Cadillac's 2026 objective was never to come in and win immediately. Just getting on the grid was already a political battle. The real target for this first season is respect. In that sense, Melbourne was a win. The team's first ever weekend with 2 cars was Friday practice here. Its first true race run was the Australian Grand Prix itself. On Sunday, Sergio Perez brought the black and white Mach 26 home to the checkered flag. That may sound basic, but with a brand new structure, brand new car and all new systems, just finishing the first Grand Prix is a significant achievement. Valtteri Bottas retired with a steering wheel problem that the team believes was not entirely in its control. Frustrating, yes, but not a disaster. Cadillac qualified comfortably, did not look completely lost on pace, and now has real race data to build on. It is still a moonshot project. There will be plenty of rough weekends, but as debuts go, this one earns a place in the winner column. And Mario Andretti, watching trackside, has every right to feel proud. While Racing Bulls, Audi and Haas all left Australia with positive storylines, Williams did not. The team's weekend was defined by two things: lost mileage and excess weight. Both Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz missed crucial track time with reliability issues. Some of that may be a hangover from missing the Barcelona shakedown, where early problems could have been ironed out. The really painful part, though, is structural. The new Williams is not only short on downforce, it is also overweight by a significant margin. You can fix setup, you can tweak wings, you can learn energy maps, but taking weight out of a car in the cost cap era is the slowest, most painful kind of development. For a team that has been rebuilding under James Vowles, this is an early sign that 2026 could again be a season of firefighting. Red Bull's biggest questions over the winter were not just about engines, they were about drivers. The second seat curse has haunted the main team for years. In Australia, two young drivers delivered exactly what Red Bull needed. Isack Hadjar put in a faultless qualifying performance to secure P3 on the grid, the best result of his career so far. His race ended with a dramatic power unit failure, but the speed was unquestionable. Arvid Lindblad qualified inside the top 10 for Racing Bulls, survived a chaotic start by making the right moves, and then went toe-to-toe with names like Verstappen to score points on his debut at just 18 years old. In these new, counterintuitive cars, that would have been the perfect recipe to trip up rookies. Instead, both handled the chaos like veterans. It is far too early to declare the second seat curse broken, but as first weekends go, this was almost flawless. Two names deserve shout-outs. Oliver Bearman brought home an excellent P7 for Haas, showing once again that he belongs at this level. Franco Colapinto not only delivered a solid weekend, but also avoided what could have been a huge start-line accident by swerving around the slow-starting Liam Lawson. That single reflex also spared Formula One from a major safety headache. Because let us be honest, the complicated start procedures under the new regulations were flagged as a potential risk well in advance. Melbourne's near miss should not be treated as proof that everything is fine. It should be a warning. The series needs to study what happened here and what will happen in China, then make sensible adjustments. So, after the first race of the 2026 era, how does the grid really look? Big winners. Mercedes, complete package, perfect execution, psychological advantage. Ferrari, solid second force, points in the bank, a clear development target. Audi and Red Bull Ford, new power units that actually work. Cadillac, ambitious debut, finishing and learning. Hadjar, Lindblad, Bearman and Colapinto, the new generation delivered. Big losers, Aston Martin Honda, vibrations, retirements, and political tension from day one. Williams, heavy, fragile, and already on the back foot. And then there is McLaren and Red Bull. Not disasters, not world beaters either. Firmly in the chasing pack behind a Mercedes team that has started this new era almost perfectly. Let me know in the comments. Who is your biggest winner of the Australian Grand Prix? And who do you think is in more trouble long-term? Aston Martin Honda or Williams?